Hey folks, I wanted to make one more video this evening. I've lost the good light from the east that reflects off of the building next door. So here I am. I just wanted to make this video regarding gasoline. We get so programmed to believe in things that I'm sitting at at the wheel of my car the other day, thanking God that I was driving a Prius and I was burning much less fuel, and how good that was, how economical that was. Then I went to a yard sale and I bought this beautiful, almost brand new Toro lawnmower. And I thought, oh, well, I can fix that up and sell it. So I cleaned it up as it's what you see. Before it was a little dirtier than that. But I cleaned it up and I did all the maintenance on it, sharpened the blade, and I got it running beautifully, put it on Craigslist. And I'll sell it to a happy family. But the point was that when I was working on it, I had to fill it up with gasoline. While working on this Toro lawnmower, I spilled some gasoline on my hands, and I could just smell it. It was disgusting. It was gross. And then I had to change the oil, and I put the oil in a pan, and then I had to put it in a jar so I could take it for recycling. And that was disgusting. It was just disgusting. And I came to realize that I also have an electric lawnmower for when I need to do little weed. I don't have a lawn, but I do mow down weeds after the rainy season. So I have this electric lawnmower to help me with that when the weed whacker simply won't do, which is also electric. So I'm all electric here except for the rototiller and this new lawnmower I got. And while I was, as I said, maintaining and fixing up this lawnmower, I realized how disgusting oil and gas are. And then I'm driving around doing errands afterwards and looking at all these cars, and I'm thinking, these all run on oil and gas. And then I saw a Tesla. And I was like, oh my God, they didn't kill the electric car. And I've read a lot about the Tesla vehicles, and other electric cars. And they are so very, very much ecological, except of course, if you consider the source of the electricity to charge them, that's a very important thing. But it's much easier to control the cleanliness of the source that generates electricity for an electric vehicle than a gas-powered car, which leaks oil, which is a dramatic just leaking, dripping oil from vehicles is a horrible, horrible ecological disaster that happens all the time. And nobody thinks about it, nobody cares, nobody notices. And it's apparently equivalent to the Exxon Valdez disaster every 3 months. So, it's like the natural gas leak in California. Horrible disaster. But nobody cares because we, quote, can't do anything about it. I think they finally plugged the leak. But the fact that humans don't really care that much about the environment really gets to me sometimes. But it's not their fault. We're programmed so much to believe so many things that are so very wrong. And television, advertising, the programming we get from our friends and relatives, the confirmation of that through agreements and psychology. Edward Bernays, if you read his work, you'll understand all of this. Edward was Sigmund Freud's nephew, and he was the guy behind the ads that were filmed of doctors smoking and offering their patients a cigarette in the 60s. So, and he was also behind the cigarette advertising to women, how it was made into a symbol of women's freedom and rights was Edward Bernays' idea. So I appeal to you to review your assumptions, like about gasoline, oil, what you drive, how you maintain your vehicle. For example, I bought a electric bicycle, and I ride it all over the place, and I really enjoy it, and it brings me a great deal of pleasure. And it's easy to ride. It's like riding a horse more than it is riding a bicycle. And this is one of the subtleties about products that we don't really understand. Riding my electric bicycle is like riding it's more like riding a horse than it is riding a regular bicycle. Because first of all, it's silent. It propels you itself 90% of the time, or even 100%, except going up steep hills where you help it by pedaling with the motor. But the way you see the world, the way you view your neighborhoods as you're riding around on this electric bike is very much like it would be if you were riding, more like if you were riding a horse than a bicycle. Your powers of observation are more directed to your eyes and to your ears, and to your senses. So it's a total sensory experience. And this is not something you would know unless you owned an electric bicycle. That said, I'm calling for a complete re-education of ourselves. The planet is worth it. And I'm no New Age person, I'm really not. I meditate and I do all kinds of stuff, but I believe that there are major flaws in the New Age movement. You know, I think Buddhism is as close you can get to an ism that works. That we live in a world that is highly delusional, if not sociopathic, and that we all really need to take a careful look at who we are, what we think. We need to examine our thoughts, examine our assumptions. You know, when you walk down the aisle at your grocery store or at a big box store or at a Home Depot, Lowe's, or whatever, and you see the products on the shelves, all these toxic products, all this horrible processed food that is so unhealthy for us. None of it would be there. None of it would be there if people did not buy it. I'm going to put that on a bumper sticker. None of it would be there if nobody bought it. So as consumers, which is a ghastly word, it's the word consumer to me is equal to the tattooing that took place on the arms of the people that were in the death camps in Germany and in Poland. The way corporations see people is very different than perhaps you see yourself or your friends or family. They see you as a number and nothing more. They see you as a behavioral entity that responds to XYZ stimulus, therefore we will create thus and such a product and you will buy it. And that's where all those products in the grocery stores, the cars you buy, everything you do in your life is not determined by you, but determined by your behaviors as they are understood by major corporations. And that's why when you study pharmaceutical ads on TV, which are terrifying to me, you begin to understand the philosophy of the corporations. So as you walk through say the pesticide aisle at Lowe's or Home Depot or Dixie Line or wherever you shop, you're looking at products that are there, toxic things that are really bad for the environment. But they're there because they do something that is visibly desirable, but the way these things do it is a disaster for the environment. And there are clean ways of doing almost everything. Now, chemicals are sometimes necessary. I have a weed in my yard called nutgrass sedge, and the only thing that kills it is a Monsanto chemical called Manage. It's now called Sedgehammer. It takes 5 or 6 applications to get rid of this terribly invasive weed, or to use Roundup. Nothing else works because it sends tubers down into and creates a little nut. It grows new sprouts from under the ground, spreads like wildfire, and you can't get rid of it unless you dig it up and sift the dirt, looking for all the tendrils and the tubers that have been sent out by the plant. Now, as I, in my long-winded way, describe the need for Roundup or Manage or this horrid Monsanto, chemical, there are times when chemicals are necessary, but I could rent a rototiller and take the soil down 6 inches and bring some people in and sift out that weed. And and then bury the ground, cover the ground with plastic for 2 years, and I would be without that weed, without chemicals. And the worst thing I did was buy a lot of plastic. And you can even do the same thing with newspaper. And you cover it up with mulch, and you have saved the planet from manage and Roundup. But, you know, life is busy, and convenience is important. So what I did was I did the plastic. I killed 99% of the nutgrass sedge naturally, and once the plastic is removed, any new growth I will hit with very small amounts of Roundup. And I know, unless I can dig it up. If I can dig up the nutgrass sedge families and get rid of them, I will promise to do that first before I get into using. But if I can't control it over a year, I may end up using very small quantities of Roundup. And that's where I've sold out. That's where I may sell out. But like owning a Prius, my car burns half the fuel, uses half the oil, and it lasts a really long time, so I don't need to buy a different car every few years. You know, I'm very proud of the way I'm protecting the planet, but in 100 years, I will be viewed as a massively guilty polluter compared to the way people will be then. So what I'm asking is that you consider everything you do, everything you put in your trash. Just look at it. Don't feel any guilt. Don't fall for the guilt trigger, because that throws you into denial, and denial turns into self-deception, and self-deception turns into delusionment, and before you know it, you don't even care that you're recycling or not. Everything goes in the garbage. I don't care. I'm not even going to get the leak in my car fixed. You know, you just give up because it's too hard. But don't feel the guilt. Don't feel the shame, and don't blame yourself, because you're not responsible until you are awake. And that is what I'm talking about here. Waking up is a slow, tedious process. Sometimes it's very anxiety-producing. And that's when you stop and you say, I'm okay, but this situation's not so hot. All right, I have room for improvement. I'm going to take a look at this item, this dripping oil from my car, these chemicals under my sink, these chemicals in my shed, these products that I use, and I'm going to be an educated consumer for the Nazis that shove this crap on us. And once you begin working with yourself in this very gentle, kind, no guilt way, you'll notice that you start cleaning up your life, and that you don't turn into a environmentalist crazy person, but that you understand what's good for your world and what isn't, what's good for you, what's good for your children. And on the other side of the coin, you start to see foods like growing your own kale, for example, really easy to do, and how healthy that is. And then you start seeing other areas of your life that you can improve. And they become hobbies, and they're fun, you know. And you haven't turned into a crazy environmentalist. You just turned off the spigot to the bad stuff and turned on the spigot to the good stuff. And that's really all it is slowly turning off all the purchase of chemicals and what have you, and then turning on. Like when I removed my lawn, I'm like, well, what am I going to put there? Something has to go there. Well, what went there was beautiful native plants in mulch. And it's more beautiful than it ever was with grass. You know, I never rolled around in the grass that I was growing in my yard. You know, I played with one baby in the grass once, but I was worried because I just dumped fertilizer on it. So I had to make sure the baby's hands were washed shortly after I was playing with it in the grass. And, you know, I found, when I was using chemicals, I found dead squirrels, I found dead birds in my yard. I don't find those things anymore. And now that we had rain finally, I wake up in the morning and I hear all these different kinds of birds outside that we haven't heard in San Diego since 2003, since the big fires. And now we're likely to get big fires again. We may see a reduction in bird population. But this year, I heard the songs of birds that I had never heard before here. This year, in my yard at 5, 6 a.m. It was beautiful. And I didn't mind that some of them were really loud and woke me up. So this is Bill Z for Zimmermania Health. Have a healthy, happy week. And again, my apologies for my lengthy video here. God bless and keep you all safe and sound through raised consciousness, new awareness, and absolutely no guilt, shame, or blame. Have a wonderful week.